Why do most Vietnam War movie rankings worship the same tired cliches? Because they ignore the raw, ugly truth. These films did not just show war, they tore open America's soul. Some got banned, others broke directors, a few even changed how we see history. But which ones actually deserve the crown? Forget your comfort zone. This list is not for the weak. It is for the real fans who want blood, sweat, and shattered illusions. Here are the 15 best Vietnam War movies ever made. No fluff, no mercy. Number 15, The Boys and Company C, 1978. This forgotten gem kicked down Hollywood's door before Platoon even existed. Directed by Sidney J. Furie, it follows 5 raw recruits from boot camp to the killing fields of 1968. The movie refuses to glorify anything. You watch these boys turn into broken men. Their training is a nightmare of racist drill sergeants and savage mind games. Then Vietnam hits like a freight train. The film's centerpiece is a rigged soccer match between American prisoners and Viet Cong guards. That scene will rot your stomach. Unlike later epics, this one shows war as a bureaucratic meat grinder. Officers lie, orders change, friends die for no reason. The acting feels documentary, real especially from Stan Shaw and Andrew Stevens. What makes The Boys and Company C unique is its raw punk energy. No sweeping score, no heroic last stands. Just mud misery and the cold truth that survival is luck, not bravery. Critics called it brutal but fair. Veterans called it Tuesday. This movie planted the flag for every Vietnam film that followed. Watch it and you will understand why Hollywood finally woke up. Number 14, The Siege of Firebase Gloria, 1988. Lee Ermey delivers the performance of his career in this overlooked blast furnace. Ermey plays a hard-boiled Marine sergeant trapped with a small unit during the Tet Offensive. The story is simple. A firebase in the jungle gets overrun. But the execution is anything but simple. This film shows tactical combat better than most big-budget spectacles. You feel the mud, the maggots, the madness. Ermey's character is no cartoon. He has nightmares. He bleeds. He even cries. The Viet Cong are not nameless shadows either. They get motives and methods and moments of dark humanity. Director Brian Trenchard Smith shot this on a shoestring budget, but every bullet counts. The siege itself lasts 40 brutal minutes. Bodies pile up. Ammo runs dry. A legendary subplot involves a trapped peasant woman and a grenade. That scene haunts you for days. The Siege of Firebase Gloria never played in huge theaters. It survived on VHS and late-night cable. Now it is a cult treasure for real war movie fans. If you think Full Metal Jacket owns Ermey's legacy, think again. This film proves he was more than a drill instructor. He was a true artist of chaos. Watch it loud and watch it alone. Number 13, Hamburger Hill, 1987. This movie angered America because it showed nothing but a pointless slaughter. Hamburger Hill focuses on one single bloody battle for Hill 937. 10 days of hell. The soldiers are young, scared, and mostly poor. Their officers change orders like weather. The enemy is invisible and everywhere. Director John Irvin uses no political speeches, no slow-motion heroics, just men crawling through elephant grass while bullets shred the air. The film's title comes from what the troops called that mountain after it turned flesh into hamburger meat. The battle was real. The movie's third act is a relentless uphill assault that feels like drowning in fire. You will watch characters die mid-sentence. You will see medics crying as they pack wounds with dirt. What makes Hamburger Hill truly unique is its neutrality. It does not say war is hell or war is glory. It simply says this happened. These men climbed that hill. Many of them died. And for what? The movie never answers because there is no answer. The final shot of bodies scattered across a muddy slope says everything. This film is a punch to the gut for anyone who thinks war has clean narratives. Watch it once. Then sit in silence. Number 12, Casualties of War, 1989. Brian De Palma made the most uncomfortable Vietnam movie ever. Based on a true crime, this film follows a squad that kidnaps, rapes, and murders a young Vietnamese woman. Michael J. Fox plays the lone soldier who refuses to participate. His moral stand makes him a traitor to his own unit. Sean Penn plays the psychotic sergeant leading the horror. The movie is not about battle. It is about what men do when no one is watching. Casualties of War forces you to stare at evil without blinking. The rape scene is not erotic. It is sickening and long and necessary for the story. De Palma shows the victim as a human being with a family and a name. you will hate every American soldier except Fox's character. But even he cannot stop the nightmare. The trial scene at the end offers no comfort. Justice comes too late. The real victim died anyway. This film flopped at the box office because audiences wanted Rambo, not reality. But time has been kind. Critics now call it De Palma's masterpiece. It is the only Vietnam War movie that dares to ask, what if we were the monsters? Watch it if you have a strong stomach. Then ask yourself what you would have done. Number 11, Heaven and Earth, 1993. Oliver Stone's third Vietnam film is completely different from Platoon and Born on the 4th of July. This one tells the war through the eyes of a Vietnamese woman. Le Lai Hayslip survived decades of chaos. She saw French colonizers, then American soldiers, then Viet Cong, torture. Her village burned twice. She was raped, beaten, and forced to flee. Heaven and Earth follows her journey from rural rice paddies to the brutal streets of Saigon, to finally a strange new life in America. Tommy Lee Jones plays her American husband, a Marine who cannot escape his own demons. Their marriage becomes another battlefield. Stone shoots the movie like a fever dream. Beautiful rice fields explode into napalm fire. Buddhist chants mix with helicopter blades. The violence is shocking but never cheap. What makes this film unique is its refusal to pick a side. The Viet Cong are cruel. The Americans are cruel. War itself is the only villain. Hayslip narrates her own story with quiet dignity. Her face holds centuries of pain. Heaven and Earth bombed because audiences did not want a Vietnamese heroine. But today it stands as Stone's most compassionate work. Watch it to see the other side of the jungle. Number 10, Good Morning Vietnam, 1987. Robin Williams turned war into a comedy, but the laughter hides a knife. He plays Adrian Cronauer, a real Air Force DJ who blasted rock and roll across Saigon. His radio show was pure chaos, jokes, impressions, Mott the Hoople. The troops loved him. His commanders hated him. Good Morning Vietnam uses comedy as a Trojan horse. The first half feels like a wild stand-up special. Williams improvises lightning fast. He mocks generals and calls out hypocrisy. Then the second half hits. Cronauer leaves the studio and sees real death. A bomb explodes in a bar filled with friends. A young Vietnamese boy he taught English gets beaten by Viet Cong sympathizers. The tonal shift is jarring on purpose. Williams shows his dramatic range in a heartbreaking scene where he confronts a corrupt sergeant. The movie argues that humor is survival, not escape. Cronauer's catchphrase, "Good Morning Vietnam," starts as a joyful roar. By the end, it sounds like a desperate prayer. This film also features one of cinema's best soundtracks from Louis Armstrong to the Beach Boys. Good Morning Vietnam is not a typical war movie because it understands that soldiers laugh hardest when they are most scared. Watch it for Robin Williams. Stay for the tragedy underneath. Number 9, The Deer Hunter, 1978. Russian roulette became a metaphor for Vietnam because of this devastating masterpiece. Michael Cimino's film runs 3 hours long. The first hour shows a peaceful Pennsylvania town, a wedding, a hunting trip, friends drinking and singing. You fall in love with these characters. Then Vietnam rips them apart. Robert De Niro, Christopher Walken, and John Savage play steelworkers captured by the Viet Cong. Their torture involves forced games of Russian roulette. Bullets spin, heads explode. The scenes are nearly unwatchable, but the real horror comes after they escape. Walken's character cannot leave the gambling dens of Saigon. He keeps playing the deadly game over and over. De Niro returns home broken. He cannot even hold a rifle for hunting. The Deer Hunter does not show large battles or political debates. It shows how war rewires a human brain. The final Russian roulette scene is cinema's most brutal tragedy. Walken stares into nothing. De Niro screams across a crowded room. The sound of a single gunshot ends everything. Critics hated the film's historical inaccuracies, but veterans said it captured their emotional truth. The Deer Hunter won 5 Oscars, including Best Picture. Watch it when you are ready to cry for 3 hours. You will never hear "God Bless America" the same way again. Number 8, Forrest Gump, 1994. Tom Hanks stumbles through Vietnam and somehow makes the war look absurd. Forrest Gump is not a war movie. It is a fairy tale that uses Vietnam as a surreal backdrop. Forrest joins the army after college. He follows orders without question. He saves his lieutenant and his best friend Bubba. He gets shot in the buttock. His innocence turns the jungle into a playground of accidents. The film shows the war through a naive filter. No politics, no trauma, just ping pong and shrimp boats. but that is exactly the point. Forrest survives because he never understands what he is surviving. His friend Bubba dies talking about shrimp recipes. Lieutenant Dan loses his legs and rages at God during a monsoon. These moments carry deep pain wrapped in featherlight comedy. The movie famously uses digital effects to put Hanks next to real historical figures. He meets LBJ at a hospital. He speaks at an anti-war rally by accident. Critics hate Forrest Gump for simplifying a complex war. But the film's genius is showing that most soldiers were just like Forrest. Young, confused, trying to do the right thing without knowing what the right thing is. Vietnam is not the point of Forrest Gump. It is the strange detour that makes the rest of his life possible. Watch it and laugh. Then wonder why you are laughing. Number 7, born on the 4th of July, 1989. This is the Vietnam War movie that turns patriotism into a wound that never closes. Oliver Stone returned to the subject after Platoon, but this time, he did not take audiences deep into the jungle. He took them inside the broken body and burning mind of Ron Kovich, a real Marine who went to war believing he was serving a noble cause, then came home paralyzed, betrayed, and furious. Tom Cruise gives one of the most fearless performances of his career. At first, Kovich is all clean-cut pride, flag-waving certainty, and small-town American dreams. But Vietnam destroys that version of him. A chaotic battlefield mistake leaves him permanently injured, and the hospital scenes are almost harder to watch than the combat. Dirty wards, ignored veterans, careless treatment, and men left to rot after giving everything. The real power of Born on the 4th of July is not just that Kovich becomes anti-war. It is watching him fight his way through shame, rage, guilt, and public rejection before finding his voice. Stone shows America celebrating soldiers when they leave, then abandoning them when they return damaged. This film is not subtle, but it is devastating. It turns one man's pain into an accusation against an entire system. Watch it for Cruise's transformation. Stay for the moment you realize the real battlefield was waiting back home. Number 6, Tigerland, 2000. Joel Schumacher shot this masterpiece in just 25 days on grainy 16mm film. Tigerland has no Vietnam combat. Every scene takes place in a Louisiana boot camp. The year is 1971. The war is winding down, but the Army still needs bodies. Colin Farrell became a star here playing a rebellious private named Boz. Boz hates authority. He helps his fellow trainees dodge deployment. He fakes injuries for cowards. He leads a mutiny against a sadistic sergeant. Tigerland is a pressure cooker of testosterone and fear. The training exercises feel like real warfare, barbed wire, mud, screaming drill instructors. Boz's unit is being prepped for Vietnam, but none of them want to go. The movie's genius is making you feel trapped in that camp with them. You smell the sweat. You hear the boots. The final act takes the platoon into a simulated Vietnamese village where the line between training and reality blurs. A soldier gets stabbed for real. A lieutenant has a nervous breakdown. Tigerland asks a brutal question. What happens to men who are trained to kill but refuse to hate? The answer is chaos. Farrell burns the screen with quiet rage. Schumacher never flinches. This is the best Vietnam movie with no Vietnam in it. Watch it for the tension. Stay for the haunting last shot of a bus leaving for the airport. Number 5, We Were Soldiers, 2002. Mel Gibson plays Lieutenant Colonel Hal Moore in this tribute to the real Battle of Ia Drang. This was the first major fight between American and North Vietnamese regulars. The movie shows both sides with respect. Gibson's Moore is a Christian family man who leads from the front. He tells his men, "I will be the first one on the battlefield and the last one off." He keeps that promise. The battle scenes are terrifying symphonies of napalm and machine guns. Soldiers fix bayonets in a desperate final charge. A journalist named Joe Galloway crawls through carnage to save wounded men. But what makes We Were Soldiers unique is the home front. We see the wives waiting for telegrams. A taxi driver delivers death notices. Moore's wife, Julie, played by Madeline Stowe, answers the phone, and her face collapses when she hears bad news. The movie does not shy away from American mistakes. Moore's men land in the wrong zone. Radio communication fails. Friendly fire kills their own. Yet the Vietnamese commander, played brilliantly by Don Duong, is no villain. He salutes Moore after the battle. The film's message is that soldiers on both sides were brave and scared and human. We Were Soldiers earned praise from real veterans for its accuracy. Watch it for the helicopter assault sequence. Stay for the final roll call of the dead. Number 4, Rescue Dawn, 2006. Christian Bale starved himself to 120 pounds for this true survival story. Rescue Dawn follows German-American pilot Dieter Dengler, the only man to escape from a Lao prison camp during the Vietnam War. Director Werner Herzog turns the jungle into a green hell. Dengler gets shot down, captured, and tortured. His captors are worse than animals. They starve prisoners until they eat rats and snakes. Bale's eyes sink into his skull. His ribs poke through his skin. The escape sequence is a masterpiece of desperation. Dengler and his fellow prisoners steal a rusty rifle and run into the monsoon forest. They eat leeches. They drink muddy water. One man loses his mind and walks into a river full of crocodiles. Herzog does not use Hollywood tricks. He shot in real jungles with real insects and real heat. The final third of the film shows Dengler alone clawing through vines while enemy patrols hunt him. Rescue Dawn is not a traditional war movie. It is a primal struggle between human will and an unforgiving planet. Dengler survives because he refuses to die. That is not heroism. That is obsession. Bale gave one of his most committed performances, but the movie bombed because audiences found it too painful. Real veterans called it the most accurate portrayal of POW life ever filmed. Watch Rescue Dawn on an empty stomach. Number 3, Full Metal Jacket, 1987. Stanley Kubrick split this movie into two perfect halves. The first 45 minutes take place in Marine boot camp. A brutal drill instructor named Gunnery Sergeant Hartman turns soft boys into killing machines. The second half drops those boys into the burning ruins of Hugh City. The first half belongs to Private Pyle, a fat, clumsy recruit who cannot do anything right. Hartman bullies him mercilessly. Pyle's soul cracks open. He murders Hartman, then shoots himself in the mouth. The second half follows Joker, played by Matthew Modine. He is a combat journalist who sees urban warfare at its most savage. A teenage sniper wounds several Marines. They hunt her down and find a girl no older than 16. Joker delivers the mercy shot. Kubrick filmed Full Metal Jacket in London's Docklands, not Vietnam. That artificial world makes everything feel surreal and nightmarish. The movie's famous line, "Me love you long time," became a pop culture joke, but the film itself is no joke. It shows how training breaks your humanity and war finishes the job. The final scene features Marines marching through flames while singing the Mickey Mouse Club theme song. That contrast is Kubrick's thesis. War turns children into monsters. Full Metal Jacket is cold, precise, and unforgettable. Watch it for Private Pyle's tragic arc. Then watch it again to catch every hidden Kubrick detail. Number 2, Platoon, 1986. Oliver Stone wrote this film from his own diary. He served in Vietnam. He saw friends die. Platoon is his raw confession. The movie follows Chris Taylor, a college dropout who volunteers for the jungle. He quickly learns that the real war is between two sergeants. Sergeant Elias is compassionate and ethical. Sergeant Barnes is a scar-faced killer who enjoys torture. They represent the split in America's soul. The platoon walks through leech-infested swamps and into ambushes. The brutal death of Elias is cinema's most iconic Vietnam image. He runs through the jungle with his arms outstretched, while Barnes shoots him in the back. Taylor's final voiceover says he did not fight for his country. He fought for his brothers. Platoon won the Oscar for Best Picture. It made audiences vomit in theaters. The combat scenes have no slow motion or heroic music, just chaos, blood, screaming. A soldier steps on a landmine, and the camera watches his legs fly into the trees. Another soldier goes crazy and beats a village girl. Stone does not judge, he just records. The acting ensemble is legendary. Willem Dafoe, Tom Berenger, Charlie Sheen, Johnny Depp, Forrest Whitaker. Every face looks raw and tired. Platoon changed war movies forever. Before Platoon, war was adventure. After Platoon, war was trauma. Watch it to understand why your grandfather never talked about Vietnam. Then thank him for his silence. Number 1, Apocalypse Now, 1979. Francis Ford Coppola went insane making this movie. A typhoon destroyed his sets. Martin Sheen had a heart attack. Marlon Brando showed up fat and unprepared. The budget ballooned to $30 million. Coppola screamed, "This film is not about Vietnam. This film is Vietnam." He was right. Apocalypse Now turns Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness into a psychedelic nightmare. Captain Willard travels up a river to assassinate Colonel Kurtz, a Green Beret, who became a god to a jungle cult. The journey is a fever dream. Robert Duvall's Colonel Kilgore attacks a village while playing Wagner's Ride of the Valkyries. He loves the smell of napalm in the morning. Willard finds a Playboy bunny show gone wrong. He sees a tiger on the riverbank. He meets French plantation owners who refuse to leave their colonial past. The final act inside Kurtz's compound is pure horror. Brando whispers about horror and snails and bullshit. Then he dies by machete. Apocalypse. Now is not a history lesson. It is an opera of madness. Every frame is overstuffed with symbolism. The most famous line, the horror, does not explain anything. That is the point. War has no explanation. It just has horror. Coppola spent decades trying to recut this movie. He made Redux and Final Cut. None of them beat the original. Apocalypse Now is the greatest Vietnam War movie because it understands that war is a fever without a cure. Watch it loud. Watch it alone. Then ask yourself what Kurtz meant. You will never find an answer. Which film broke you the most? Drop your rage in the comments. No safe answers. Subscribe for more brutal truth. War never changes. But these movies force us to remember. Remember the heroes. Remember the horror. And never forget the cost. Thanks for watching. Stay angry.